Yo, brother! You're at home with a geek. I'm Mark, aka the Little Black Dude. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you love movies, TV shows, comic books, video games, and other things of a geeky nature, mash that subscribe button and be sure to ring my bell to be part of the notification squad. That way you'll know whenever I upload a new video. Been a good long time since I reviewed a movie, so it's a great way to come back and do what I love again. I had a request to review DragonBall Super Broly, so here's the Little Black Dude to give you the down low on the movie. Since it's been out for some time, and I'm sure there's people already bootlegging it and streaming it, this will have some spoilers. You were warned. A little backstory. Dragon Ball Z introduced quite possibly the most popular villain character in the fandom back in March of 1993 in Japan. We fans in America had no clue what was coming our way until much later. I first saw Broly around 2002 when DBZ had become a cultural phenomenon and everyone and their brother had seen the series and a handful of movies with fan translations. The official Funimation dub came out in 2003 and blew the collective socks off the fans who didn't spend as much time online back then. DBZ Broly was the story of a plot to get revenge on Vegeta by a father and son wronged by King Vegeta many years before. Vegeta was invited to a planet conquered in his name as a new homeworld for the Saiyajin, but it was about to be destroyed by a massive meteor. Goku, Gohan, Trunks, and Piccolo tag along, as do Krillin, Oolong, and Kame Sennin, to see this new world. We find out that Broly, the son of Bruddahs, who invited the Dragon Ball team, is the legendary Super Saiyajin, whose power was leagues above all at birth. He was kept dormant most of the time by Bruddahs' control bracelet, connected to a collar around his neck. The collar no longer works when Broly faces Goku and hears his Saiyajin name, Kakaroto. Turns out Goku and Broly were next to each other in the nursery as babies, and Goku's crying severely upset Broly. So an age-old vendetta against a crying baby erupts into the most epic fight in Dragon Ball history up to that point. Broly shows up in 2 more movies, but both were generally disappointing to the fans. DBZ was going through some difficulties of its own, so its effect was lessening in the anime community. People had become accustomed to seeing anime series and movies on American TV, and movies were more available, so there was less of a drive for our favorite band of fighters around that time. Fast forward again to 2013, and the movie Battle of Gods, and 2015's Dragon Ball Super. It's a continuation of the events of the series following the events of the Majin Buu saga. Dragon Ball fans flocked to see this new series and were excited once again since the movie was shown in American theaters. There was excitement around the franchise again. Another movie, Resurrection F, came out in 2015 and again gave us a fan favorite, Frieza! He was brought back from hell and wanted to get revenge on Goku and Vegeta. And again, it was in American theaters and the fans ate it up. 2 movies with villains the fans loved. What would be the next step? During the run of Dragon Ball Super, which ended in early 2018, Toei Animation was working on a new version of Broly that fit the Densetsu no Super Saiyajin into the Dragon Ball Super universe. In order to do it though, the story had to be touched up since plot wasn't exactly the thing that sold the first appearance of Broly. After watching the movie and geeking out a lot about what I saw, here's my takeaway from Dragon Ball Super Broly. What they got right! Number 1. There was a plot! Most Dragon Ball movies have either a thin plot or none at all. Dragon Ball Z Broly had a thin plot that made very little logical sense. Dragon Ball Super Broly took the time to set up the conflict, make the viewer care enough, and then want to see it resolved. Then did all the action we had come to see. Granted, the idea was essentially the same between the 2 movies, but a good amount of Dragon Ball Super Broly was dedicated to understanding Paragus and his hatred of King Vegeta. Number 2. All characters were used in appropriate manners. When a character shows up in a movie, their role has to have meaning. It does not have to be important, but there are movies where a character just shows up and seems like they'd be significant, and then don't do jack. In Dragon Ball Z Broly, we had familiar faces that didn't really add to the action. Kame Sennin, who was drunk the whole time, Oolong, who shouldn't even have been there, and Krillin, who I liked seeing, but he didn't have much of a role besides comedy relief. Dragon Ball Super Broly's cast used every character for something. Beerus was in the movie, but he was left to babysit Bra, giving him a reason to be in the movie. Piccolo was there to go over fusion with Goku and Vegeta, further making it canon and making for a funny cutaway scene. Frieza actually had a hand in Paragus having a chance to exact his revenge. So on and so forth. This is rare for Dragon Ball movies, and it was a great move, if you ask me. Number 3, a friggin' montage! When Goku was sent to Earth by none other than Bardock, I said to my friend who was watching with me, all I want is a montage of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and I'm already satisfied with this. As soon as the words exited my lips, Toriyama-sensei answered me with about a 2-minute montage of the events of the series from Goku crash landing on Earth through to the current time, which was designated by Vegeta and Goku training together. A tidy way to show the movie is connected to the series and the events within aren't an alternate universe like the movies from the Dragon Ball Z era. Number 4. Solid action sequences throughout. An action movie is made or broken by its action scenes. If you watched my review of Ghost in the Shell's live action, mash the link in the corner if you haven't seen that one. I personally hate to wait for action in an action movie. Once the action starts in Dragon Ball Super Broly, it doesn't stop for long. There's lulls and there's cutaways, but the tension of the battle never wavers. Each person involved in witnessing the fight between Densetsu no Super Saiyajin to Saiyajin no Oji to Sekai Saikyo no Otoko are locked into the danger and the significance of what they're seeing. Number 5. Characters act appropriately for the feeling of the movie. Vegeta isn't a punk in this version. This is the one thing I hated more than anything in the Dragon Ball Z version. Vegeta spent so much of that movie's fight scenes on his knees complaining about how they can't win against Broly. No matter how much Vegeta knew about the legend, that's not his style. We have seen Vegeta go up against Frieza, even with no hope of winning. We have seen him fight Beerus after he smacked Bulma. We have seen him go against Jiren with no energy left to fight with. Why in the crap would Vegeta ever think he couldn't win? Goku's enjoying himself. Piccolo is wise in his counsel. Frieza relishes in the idea of several dead monkeys. Paragus is feeling his revenge is possible, and the minor characters are trying to avoid getting swept up in the battle while doing their best to make a difference. No one feels out of character, and none of the characters seem to be doing frivolous things. Number 6. Characters are better written and developed. Even though Goku's a pretty flat character, we get how his mind works. He's easy to write correctly. Broly, on the other hand, he was written as a mindless killing machine in Dragon Ball Z Broly. But in Dragon Ball Super, he actually has a personality. He has reasons why he does things. He has motivations in life, and he even has an emotional attachment to a creature he played with in his youth. Everything is different about him, and it makes the audience able to see him as a character and want to see more of him. The writing for this version gives us a more unified idea of how our main character and our recurring characters and introduces some new characters, both brand new and redesigned characters, into our existing world now. Poorly written characters don't work as well and ruin the immersion into a story. And while I was overall pleased with the movie, and I enjoyed it, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So, what they got wrong? Number 1. Animation quality wasn't consistent. This is more an issue for Dragon Ball Super as a whole than just this movie. Since it's a more action-heavy series, there's always been 2 types of animation, regular and action scene animation. The characters often are simplified for involved fight scenes so more movement can be animated without wasting time. Unfortunately, this series has a tendency to make it glaringly obvious. With Dragon Ball Z Broly, the movie animation was consistent and fit well with the action due to being its own thing and not being part of the canon series. Dragon Ball Super Broly is a little more constrained, and from what I can gather had differing time limits than its predecessor. As such, shortcuts like differing line weights, CGI, and camera angles were used to keep scenes engaging without as much effort. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. Number 2, script balance felt off. Any story being told needs to have a focus, something the audience should care about. In both movies, the fight with an insurmountable foe is the focus. The problem with this movie is it makes the rest of the story feel a little tacked on. Dragon Ball Super Broly is overall better. It's better written and it fleshes out the characters better than its Dragon Ball Z counterpart. But I'm convinced that the fight with Broly was written first and the rest was sculpted around it. There was appropriate setup and explanation, much like this was written to be its own thing, but the viewer can forget all about that once that first punch gets thrown. It's a little flaw, but it matters to me. Number 3, how fusion is introduced. Hey! I love fusion. I love Gogeta. But I don't love the fact that the action was speed bumped by the great Namek teaching Goku and Vegeta how to do fusion together. In order for it to be used, they both had to learn it, of course. Goku knew the technique and taught it to Piccolo, Trunks, and Goten. That happened in the Majin Buu saga. He and Vegeta had never done it in this continuity before. Fusion between them only happened in Dragon Ball Z Movie 12, Rebirth of Fusion. So it needed to be introduced in this continuity. I'm just not fond of how it happened. This is more a nitpick than anything because it also leads to, hands down, the funniest scene in the entire movie. Goku essentially hands off the fight with Broly to Frieza, who gets his buns waxed for a solid hour. Never laughed so hard at a Dragon Ball movie ever in my life. But it still breaks the flow of the action somewhat. Number 4, the freaking ending! We all knew the ending was so Broly could come back and fight Goku again. We all knew it was so Broly's friends Chimai and Lammo would have a purpose. But sweet merciful crap, it was the punch-out ending to end out all punch-out endings for me. A fight like that needs to have a winner. You can't have a battle that lasts as long as that one did and not have a real outcome. I was disappointed with it for the same reason I was disappointed back when Dragon Ball Z had this fight between Goku and Paikuhan. There was no winner, and I gotta say that annoyed me. Then, Goku finds them, gives them food and shelter, and tells Broly he'll be back to teach him. Dude, what the heffle? It deflated all the awesome that happened moments earlier to have it end that way. But it had to end that way in order for Broly to show up in the series at some future point. You win this round, movie! In conclusion, this movie gets 3 out of 5 fists in the air. Overall, Dragon Ball Super Broly does a good job of reintroducing a character people love in a new context. Broly, being a person corrupted by his father's hatred rather than a mindless killing machine, makes for a character we want to see more of in the series. Each aspect of the older movie that made no real sense was addressed. And there were reasons for the story to change so it didn't feel like reboots of other series I could name. Dragon Ball Super Broly may have had some flaws, but overall it was an interesting film for fans of the series. And if a person who knows nothing about Dragon Ball watched this, they wouldn't be lost. This is a super important concept as it makes new fans when a self-contained story is supplemented with a "but wait, there's more!" No movie is without problems, but when the impact of the flaws is overpowered by the interesting and fun aspects, there's no way it won't entertain. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other videos. Got new stuff that'll be going up all the time. And make sure you ring my bell so you don't miss a new video. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more things and stuff. There's also my second channel, Inside the Geek, for more about me and my life. Until next time, this is the little black dude. Put your fist up with me, stay geek and proud.